Today I'm going to share some tips for getting off of coffee because as much as I love it, it is a problematic drug in many ways. That's the caffeine in the coffee and the other factors I talked about, coffee. Now, granted, I love the stuff. I could drink it by the gallon and probably die a happy man, but it's the in-between times when you're not awake and not asleep and you're dragging your ass all over the place. And as I said, it has quite a negative effect on sexual performance for males. I'm a male and I like sex to be good, so I don't want my coffee replacing my sex. The coffee's liquid love, but it shouldn't replace physical love with a real lover, in my opinion. Okay? Unless you're alone on the Antarctic and it's you, your coffee, and a blow-up doll. Go for the coffee. Okay, before I get into this, some reminders. My book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, your fully individualized assessment, questionnaires, specific responses, and key information for keeping yourself healthy, much of which is related to the things I've been talking about in this program. If you like in these little video blogs, here's a couple hundred pages of them back to back. And remember, oftentimes people that have coffee loves and addictions have fungal and parasite problems, and they often need coffee to compensate for the adrenal stress, high levels of inflammation in the body, being overheated, and though the coffee picks you up and gives you temporary relief, it actually contributes significantly to taxing the adrenal glands, and long-term overstimulation of the adrenals will suppress immune function, and most people that I work with that have fungal and parasite problems have to get off of coffee or they cannot heal. In my 4 DVD set, Healing Fungal and Parasite Infections, The Absolute Essentials, I go beyond what's in this book in many regards and include other things and a whole lot of highly practical information everyone should understand. This should be shown in elementary schools. And I produced it so even a 12-year-old could understand it. So while many of you love free information and sound bites like this, know that these little video clips are fast food education. Sometimes you got to stop the fast food and get to the brass tacks. Here it is. That said, let's get into some good fast food education with some brass tacks in it. Okay, so how to get off of coffee. Number one, you need to get your sleep cycle balanced out. Coffee has caffeine in it. Caffeine has quite a long half-life, 4 to 6 hours. That means if you drink 1 cup of Starbucks coffee, that's around 300 to 350 milligrams. We'll call it 300. 4 to 6 hours later, you still have 150 milligrams in you. 4 to 6 hours later, you still have 75. 4 to 6 hours later, you still have about 35. I don't know if you understand what that means. It means if you drink coffee in the afternoon, you can guarantee your sleep cycle is screwed and your recovery is pretty much ruined. And most people are doing that all the time, finishing dinner with coffee and stuff like that. Not good. So step one, restore your sleep cycle. In my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, I go into a significant amount of explanation on circadian cycles, sleep cycles, physical repair, psychogenic repair, how it works. In a nutshell, you need to get yourself to bed by 10 o'clock and rise at 6 a.m. If you cannot do that for reasons of shift work or whatever, then some of my tips for you are to take naps. Naps are very, very powerful healing tools, free. The best time to nap is around 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock, 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. because there's a natural dip in our chi flow cycle so people can fall asleep easier at that time. Use an alarm clock, don't sleep longer than 20 minutes, or you can get a hibernation effect. Wake up, feel like you can't wake up, and it has a very similar effect on you as jet lag. It encourages people, unfortunately, to drink more coffee and tea. Another, if you're weaning yourself off of coffee or any caffeinated beverage, do not ever drink it after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Why? Because of the half-life. If you drink coffee or tea or stimulants after 3 in the afternoon, chances are very, very high your sleep cycle will be completely disrupted unless you have, the liver of a cow in there, which is not likely. Okay? Next, some supportive things that can help you get off of coffee. If you go to rrsuperfoods.com, they got a great product called Coffee Fix. A very good replacement for what you put in the coffee. One of the key things about coming off of coffee or stimulating drinks like that, research shows that the ritual is as important to the individual as what's in the cup. So oftentimes what makes getting off of coffee so challenging for people is they really love meeting people at coffee shops and the ritual. So maintain the ritual and put some Coffee Fix or I call it Guyasa, but apparently it's Yuasa tea from RR Superfoods. They also have an excellent adrenal support formula, very high quality stuff. If you go to AmericanWildFoods.com, they have a great chaga mushroom drink, and they have other chaga products. Chaga is a great replacement for coffee that helps stabilize the body and has quite a nice flavor. There's also many other things at AmericanWildFoods.com you can use. Another little trick is when a person's coming off of coffee, they usually go into adrenal depression because they're usually elevated in cortisol levels, which has a stimulating effect on the brain. Berries in general, like strawberries, huckleberries, blueberries, berries have a stimulating effect on the adrenal glands. So if your body can handle it, and you're not on an antifungal diet, it's probably a good idea to increase the amount of berries you're eating in your diet around the period of time that you would normally drink your coffee. And that can pick you up naturally, and it's a lot easier to get off of berries than coffee. Okay? Next, aerobic exercise is a very potent elevator of glucocorticoids or stress hormones. So you can use aerobic exercise to help you get off of coffee easier. The key thing to do is identify what time of day you usually feel like, if I don't have a cup of coffee right now, I'm going to fall asleep. That's the time you want to go and do some kind of steady state aerobics at a low intensity. You should be able to pass the talk test, which means you should be able to carry on a conversation, or for those of you with heart rate monitors, you need to exercise somewhere between about 20 and 40 minutes at 70% maximum heart rate or less. Never over that. Nice steady state aerobics. That will elevate your glucocorticoid levels and often completely negates the sense of I need a cup of coffee. So explore that. Natural, easy to do. Okay? Next, drip coffee should be converted into an Americano I talked about in the previous blog. Drip coffee carries a lot more caffeine in it because of the exposure to the water being a longer time. So by using a shot of espresso in a cup and just adding hot water, you're decreasing the amount of caffeine, but you're often getting a richer, more flavorful cup of coffee than you were before. So it's a nice little step in the right direction. Just be careful not to keep jacking it up with 4 shots of espresso and calling it an Americano, because really that's just a watered down lightning bolt. Okay? Eat dark roast beans. That's one of my Paul Chek tricks, just like the butter, man, and all those oils. I love to invent. So what you want to do is, if you want to get off of coffee quickly, oftentimes this is all you need to do. I've done this with many people successfully. Get the darkest roasted beans you can, like French roast, because the darker the roast is, one, the better they taste in your mouth to chew them. 2, the more caramelization you get, so it brings the sugars up, which makes them more palatable. Take a dozen coffee beans, put them in your pocket. At the time you normally have your coffee, take 3 beans, chew them slowly and suck them, and do your best not to swallow. Keep chewing, sucking until you have a liquid mush in your mouth. and then when there's nothing left to chew, chase it with a little water. That'll put a slow drip of caffeine, a homeopathic dose, into your body, and I found as little as 3 beans and seldom more than a dozen beans does it take to wipe out withdrawal symptoms, and it's a fast, easy way to get off of coffee, which you can use by itself or in combination with these other techniques, depending on how addicted you are. Once you take your 3 beans, if you start getting withdrawal symptoms, take another 3. That'll hold you over for a little while. Go like that throughout the day. I estimate that a shot of espresso is probably made from about 100 beans, roughly. So if you're down to 12 beans and you can knock the symptoms out, you're getting a nice low dose, and those grounds sit in your gut and release homeopathic doses for hours. Okay? Use yerba mate and green tea as substitutes, but remember, even green tea's got a fair dose of caffeine in it, and you can get addicted to green tea. You can be addicted to tea and coffee at the same time because of the different chemicals in them. I've seen that happen plenty of times. Then you have to withdraw from 2 things. You can withdraw from coffee, but still be addicted to green teas, black teas, white teas. So be careful about playing little games in your head. Oh, I can have this because I'm not having that, because ultimately you could get double screwed. Okay? I find yerba mate to be far less of an issue with any kind of addiction, far smoother of an experience, and easier to get off. Also, one of the things I find even better than the teas is fresh squeezed juice, especially if you put some of the more stimulating things like ginger, garlic, any of the vegetables or fruits that have, like I said earlier, berries can be fresh squeezed. Some of the roots have a lot of sugar in them. Now obviously you got to be careful if you have a fungal infection. My point is, though, fresh squeezed juices can be quite stimulating, quite clearing to the head, and quite energizing. So if you want to cut back on your coffee, start with a fresh squeezed juice, wait and see how you feel. If you really need the coffee because your head's going to crash, take some, but only drink as much as you need. One of the things you can do is put lots of fat, like I showed, and just use a spoon, take it in like a food as opposed to a coffee, and stop when you feel you don't need anymore. Okay? Next, breathing and working in. Look at my last 4 Doctors You'll Ever Need How to Get Healthy Now book. It's an ebook, multimedia ebook, teach you how to breathe properly. If your breathing's not right, you're probably going to be much more likely to want to be on coffee and have a harder time getting off, because you're going to have a significant energetic deficiency from poor breathing mechanics and poor respiratory exchange. Working in. I talk about how to do that in many resources and all over my YouTube channel. Very, very helpful for getting off of any kind of addictive substance. Next, cold showers are magic. Best time for a cold shower is first thing in the morning before you start your day. It has a very enlivening effect, as cold as you can go. Ideally, work yourself up to 3 minutes in the beginning and progress up to 6 to 10 minutes to get maximum effect. Also, for you guys that are suffering from poor sexual performance from drinking too much coffee and working too much and thinking too much, cold showers are magic for your sexual performance. Number 9, keep the routine, as I said earlier, but just change what's in the cup. And 10, I have found high-quality organic chocolates, such as green and blacks, to be a nice support for people coming off of chocolate. So if you're in that transition where your body's having a bit of a go of it, a little bit of chocolate in there seems to give just enough boost to make the transition easier. Those are my tips for getting off of coffee. Over the years, I've gotten off it for periods of as long as a year, 6 months, depending on what my needs were. I've probably been on and off coffee successfully 6 or 8 times, and I've helped thousands of people get off of it, oftentimes quickly for significant medical reasons, etc. These techniques work. All you got to do is follow the advice and enjoy the freedom. And like I showed you, you can enjoy a little sip of espresso, know your limits, have a dream, balance yourself, have values, And that way you know when to say yes and when to say no. Otherwise, all you got to live for is your coffee, and taking your coffee away is like taking a kid's blankie or toy away, and it doesn't work well. Thanks for joining me. I don't know what we'll talk about next. We'll have a chat with Great Spirit. I'll be back to share something with you soon. See you then.